All right, welcome to today's YouTube Live on breaking down Google's helpful content update and the websites that survived. It's funny because it's Tony and I were putting together today's presentation. It's really not about winning with the HCU. It's about surviving because it's still both because it's a bit of a negative classifier, but also because so many sites got hit hard that it's hard to find sites that kind of won. We're doing this with both myself and with Tony Hill. Tony, introduce yourself. Welcome.
So sites here, I've been doing it for the last 18, 19 years or so. And man, I've been learning from my own sites and from others on Twitter or X, and I've really enjoyed just being able to share what I know with people. It really helps me with my own understanding as well. And so that's why I've been diving into a bunch of niche sites lately, trying to figure out who's doing well, who's not. It's hard to find the ones that are doing well right now, but I really enjoyed the process. I'm naturally a person who just likes to dig in and try to understand how things work and reverse engineer some things, and so this has been a cool process for me to go through, and just want to be able to share some of my findings with you and everyone else. And maybe there's some things we can learn from some of these sites that are doing really well, get some ideas for our own site, and just get that creativity going as we are all adjusting and trying to figure out how can we improve our sites, how can we win more with Google and with people.
It's funny because we're more than 2 months in now since the helpful content update hit. It started around the middle of September, took a couple weeks to kind of officially roll out. And then we had an October core update happening at either the same time or right thereafter. We've had a November core update since then. So analyzing the effects of the helpful content update have been very difficult, to say the least. I know I get a ton of DMs and a lot of inquiries at my agency about this, and I know you get a lot of the same. And then, like a lot of people, we've done Twitter Spaces, which is kind of ad hoc, where we talk through the HCU. I've done, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them at least. And a lot of people just want to see examples of like, hey, what did well? Like what survived? Because even if you go look at some of your competitors, you might find in your space, like a lot of them didn't come out any better than you did. So trying to figure out what to emulate, or at least what to glean insights from has been very difficult. So any final thoughts before we dive in? We are going to be sharing live websites and talking through from a high level the things they're doing that might or might not be keeping them or helping them survive. But any more thoughts before we get into our first website here?
Yeah, that one thing that's been challenging, and what I've been wondering lately is who's really winning from the helpful content update. Like you were saying, not only am I seeing like sites drop, but all their competitors drop, and that means like someone's moving to the top. Who is it? Of course, we're seeing a lot of Reddit and Quora.
Yeah, I was going to say Reddit.
A lot of those.
You can answer that.
That's pretty much it. Pinterest doing well lately. So a lot of these user-generated something to learn there. But here's the other thing: is that from my understanding, how the helpful concept works is, Google is working on they kind of feed that system data, and they have to do that every once in a while to refresh based upon like user signals. As a lot of this, and so they're looking at user signals, and they've got to refresh the data, and that's why they've got to do a big update with helpful content every once in a while. I think a lot of them are data refreshes. They may have tweaks to actually how the algorithm works, but so you can recover from over time as you make changes and Google likes what they're seeing, then you can make a recovery relative to your own site, and you don't have to wait for another big update. But maybe sometimes you do, where Google is bringing in fresher data of how they've been analyzing things. So, for example, like Reddit, Quora, etc., they're getting a lot of signals right now of user engagement, how people are interacting with the search results now that all these user-generated sites are ranking #1. And time will tell if it's really improved Google overall and people satisfied. I think we'll see some of that dialing down as they start to collect all that data and then rerun some of their systems. And they'll come to find out that some of these user-generated sites, they don't really have very good results. So that's just kind of a caveat. Just like I think there's hope, but then there's hope here, and that we're going to show you some sites that are still doing well.
So it's great perspective.
Yeah. So let's get going on that first one.
Future. So okay. Let's go ahead and kick off here. Those of you who watch me on the podcast know that me and sharing screens is always a tricky business. For some reason, this is my kryptonite. So, as I'm pulling up our first site, I will say that to your point, Tony, like I was doing some Reddit searches, or I was doing some Google searches and was getting Reddit results for some things that pretty clear in a way you don't want Reddit results for, and so I think that we're going to find that, the dial is going to continue to get tweaked. But at the same time, let's look at what's working now because this is a landscape shifting update in the way that Google wants us to look, right? So we can at least take from it what they want. First site up on the screen, take it away.
Yeah, so this is Yuku, but
This one came on my radar.
and man, it's just a cool site. When you first come to it here, I don't know if you're on the homepage. I think you're on their tabs page. But man, first thing that popped out to me was their logo. That was just a really unique logo there, and good way to integrate the design of a ukulele and their logo there, and just the color they've got going on there. I don't know. Just to me, it just wasn't your typical run-of-the-mill niche site that I've seen over and over again. So that part really stuck out about it. And then, man, this is like a really interactive site. Did you drop the link in the comment or something for people to check it out?
I did. Yep, it's in the comment thread.
Okay.
If you're watching, you can go ahead and grab it.
So this one, man, they are very user focused. They've got some really cool tools on there, right? So if you were to click on, let's see, like the chords tab right there at the very top navigation, you'll see that they've got a page here where it's really interactive. You can different chords, you can hear them. You can there's a little play button and you'll hear the chord. I know nothing about playing a ukulele or guitar or reading music, so all this is kind of gibberish to me, to be honest with you. But yeah, I was kind of just messing around with it, pressing buttons, clicking around. But I'm sure people who know what they're doing with this thing have an idea of what this will do and how this will help them.
Wow.
From an SEO perspective, these pages right here, these are individual pages. When you click on, I think, yeah, when you click on any of those, it changes the URL.
You're right.
So these are individual pages indexed by Google, and they're ranking. I mean, if you look at how little content is on the page, but it's actually ranking because I'm sure we're talking about user signals that Google's tracking, right? And the engagement on this site is probably off the charts. If you notice, then once you click on one of those letters or notes, down to that box at the bottom underneath the little guitar thing, yeah, then all those, it shows the matching scales, and you can click on that internal link, and that will take you to
D minor,
right?
So they got a landing page for that.
It's just talking about like a topical, just having all of these pages right here connected together in a really interactive way. I mean, figuring out how to translate this to your own site, that's going to be a little tricky because this obviously is very oriented towards a physical thing that people are interacting with, and then they can do it online as well. But I think the idea here is that they've created a really helpful interactive tool. Not only do they have like some information on their site about stuff, but they've created some interactive tools. So this is one of the coolest interactive tools I've seen in a while. Then if you go to, let's see, they pretty much have similar things. If you go to Namer and Scales, and I don't even know how to pronounce the other one, Arpeggios.
I don't know. You and me.
All right.
Pick the music site.
There's people cringing right now. I know. Yeah. So I'm sure that means something to people who play this instrument. Yeah, and they've got a tuner. So they rank, I think this is the one that they rank really well for. I put in some of their number. I went into SEMrush for this site, and I like to look at just the number one rankings for a site to get an idea of what it's truly ranking for. And they are ranking for a ton of search terms for ukulele tuning. I mean, there's all sorts of synonyms or ways of searching for ukulele tuning, and man, it's sending them a ton of traffic to that one tuner page, just that one little tool. I don't know how much traffic exactly. I'm sure Ahrefs will tell you on a page level, but yeah, that they're getting a ton, what, 208,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to that tuner page. That's nuts.
Wow. So what is
Ranking number
driving
one.
that? I mean, you think it's truly the on-page signals? Do you think it's also the internal linking? Because the internal linking has to be playing a role with the interaction that people
Oh
are
yeah,
able to have on this site.
for sure. Yeah, I do wonder how they are doing some internal linking to the tuner page.
Go back through and look at that. I think from that particular page,
Um, but
yeah. What's interesting is that this is
really specific to ukulele versus guitar or other stringed instrument like this. And so I'm going to guess that there's something unique about the ukulele and tuning that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, other than they're just covering so many of these related topics that I was kind of surprised. I thought all the, again, I kind of know how to strum a guitar. So I just figured that if you could play guitar, you could play ukulele. But I think it's a little different. And so they figured that out. There's a lot of people searching for it. I see that they rank for a lot of search terms where people are typing in like like UK, because like for ukulele for short, and because it's just his own whole niche, and so it's just a different way people are searching. But yeah, so they're ranking for like their different chords. So people will type into Google F and then hashtag M. I'm sure that means something like an F major or something, and they'll do ukulele after that. And so they got that F uh, hashtag M, whatever that means. So
like you have no idea what you're talking about. But they're ranking for these different
chords or notes that people are searching specifically for ukulele. So I thought that was cool that they've been able to tap into that and figure that out. And that's just a small portion of
for a
their
lot of
site
different
right
keywords
there.
here. You can see.
Yeah, so they have all sorts of tuner options there, tabs. And then now, if you look at, they rank I think it's number one, no, number three right now. Ahrefs. At one point, I thought I saw him at number one, but somewhere over the rainbow, ukulele. Now that is a song that I'm aware of. Really popular ukulele song, and I'm sure it sends them quite a bit of traffic there. But if you go to that page on their site, that'll give us a good example of their other strategy for ranking really well and producing content. And that is they've got these pages of basically like the music sheet equivalent of all these different songs that you can play with the ukulele. So yeah, head over to the Over the Rainbow one
Here you go. Got it.
if you can. You got it? There we go. Yeah. Uh, so man, the first thing I noticed, I was on the right hand side. I was like, what is going on over here? And there's like toggles and stuff and things you can transpose, whatever that means. But that looks really helpful. But you click on that, and the page is interactive. It's changing everything, and I'm sure it's totally relevant to people who are wanting to learn how to play this song. And they're also there on the right is an auto scroll. You can turn that on, so it will scroll for you as you're sitting there, probably in front of your computer or phone, and you're on this page, and you're trying to figure out how to play the song, and and rather than stop and having to scroll on your own, then you can just have the page automatically do it. You can control the speed. Like, this could almost be an app in itself. And I'm sure that there are apps that people can download and they probably use for something similar to this, but they figured out how to build it into a website. And that's something that even for myself and my sites, I'm looking at what are ways that I can create more of an app-like experience to create more engagement. And
Yeah.
then that's also a way that people will it helps you kind of stand out, be more unique, be more branded,
in the
run
middle
content
information site.
And so this was just a really cool example of how they just added some extra touches. Like they probably use their own site, and I've sat there in front of it trying to learn how to play a song. I'm like, oh man, it'd be really helpful if this thing could just kind of scroll for me, And so being a user of your own site, I'm sure can go a long ways in trying to figure out ways that you can improve and make it a little easier for yourself and then for other people.
So I'd say a couple things about this site. This is clearly a site where I would say perhaps the person who made this site is got to be a ukulele enthusiast, right? And they know their niche. Like, I'm not sure that some of the pages we were just looking at are pages you would find in a keyword research tool. And certainly if you went and found them, it might be an article, right? Like an article on how to blah, 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 but it wouldn't be what we just saw in front of us, right? Like they kind of went inside the head of and the minds of their users, and they knew what they wanted. And that was not something that anybody who's just handing a keyword off to a writer would probably produce,
Yep, definitely. Yeah. And if you look at how much of this is original content, hardly anything on here, right? We're looking at this Over the Rainbow Wonderful World page. It's just the lyrics along with the different chords. They've got a little box at the bottom says this arrangement is shown above is author's own work, blah, blah, blah. But they probably have that as a text on every single page. So just like little disclaimer text. So how much of this is original? Doesn't look like hardly anything. They don't even have comments. I think that would be, if I had to give some feedback, I'd have them test out opening up comments. Maybe people have some questions, maybe some things are tricky, I couldn't figure out, and the author can go in there and answer some of those questions. But then, they don't really need that much help with their content here. But maybe that's an option when they register. So there's an option to log in and register there, but which we can look at in a little bit. But yeah, not a whole lot of original content here. It's just really helpful, and that's what Google's aiming for, right? And they're not perfect at it, but they figured out that, okay, maybe for some queries, it doesn't matter if there's anything original or new to us here. Like, is it helpful? Is it serving the purpose and the need of the person who's searching for Over the Rainbow ukulele? And this is the page they come to, and the user could care less if there's something original on here. They just want the lyrics, they want the chords, and then the bonus is that they make it really easy to put it with these different diagrams. They've got the auto scroll. They've got a video, so you can play the music right there. They've got a little YouTube embed.
Yeah, it's all there.
It's all right there. Everything they need. They've got the internal link for they show you the song key, which is in C major, and they've got that as an internal link to their ukulele songs in C major, which I thought was a brilliant play. So either they know SEO really well, or they've hired a really good SEO who's figured some of these things out. But it's really well connected, so that now they've got a whole page on ukulele songs in C major. I don't know what the search volume is like, but for users, I don't know, maybe they really want to hone in their C major skill set, and so now they can navigate and find additional songs that they can practice in C major. And
we all the music enthusiasts are coming out in the chat here. So
nice.
Gregor says that's an F minor chord, Tony. So we got to get that pronunciation down. Why Stuff Sucks says that hashtag, you'd be fooled if you think that's hashtag. That's actually for sharp. So apparently we can have an F sharp.
All right.
And from a more SEO standpoint, Jay Neal points out that they also have a plethora of different language URLs as well that he found doing a site domain search.
Yeah, that was something. I think I was on my notes there. Because I did a site search, and I saw 12,000 pages.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what is going on? Yes, so they've got multiple languages going on here. I don't know how they did it. It really is probably fairly simple because, again, there's not a lot of original content on there. It's just lyrics, right? So it's just translating those lyrics over, as far as I'm aware of. But otherwise, like, I'm on a Japanese version, and it's just showing me E, A, and all the other chords using the English letters. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, that translation is something worth considering. I know that it's still, from what opportunity for niche sites is, especially in the age of AI. I mean, there was a point in time where I was
really expensive to pay someone to translate an entire site, but now with AI, I don't know, we don't really have much of an excuse to not translate our site.
It is interesting.
And still you can get a human to review it, but it's still going to be a lot cheaper at the end of the day than having someone completely rewrite everything in a different language.
And to Thomas's point, something you and I have talked about at length on other HCU conversations, this site not plastered with ads.
Yeah, it's not, but they got like one little ad on that particular song page
Yeah, I think it was the
there,
footer ad is all I really saw while I was
footer ad.
cruising
Yeah.
around.
And so I was wondering, how are they making money? But if you go to the very bottom of their site and their footer, they've got a gray button on a gray background. And the text for it, the label is awesome ukulele lessons. So I clicked on that and it took me to a landing page where you can buy ukulele lessons for beginners. I'm like, okay, so this is probably an additional way how they're making money. It's not the best call to action, not the best placement, in my opinion. I mean, to put basically the affiliate link, or maybe it's their own product, hard to tell, at the basically in the footer of your page. I mean, if I guess if you're trying to serve the search user, that is a good place to tuck that in. But really, if you are trying to genuinely serve people who come to your site, and you know you've got a lot of beginners, which you may have, if they're searching Google for information about different tabs and different scales and chords, then I would make that more prominent. You would better serve them to like go through your beginner course, and then they'll come back to the site, right, once they get the hang of things.
This sales page is straight out of 2004.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
This is
yeah.
like before ClickFunnels was a thing.
Right.
It
Yes.
goes on
It is wild.
forever, and every picture must have been taken in 1985.
Right. This is crazy. Yeah. Maybe it works. I mean, they're getting traffic. Um, and it's only $67. That's
But it's $67, but you can save over
2023.
$2,000 and get a 1-year money back guarantee.
nice. Wow. 1 year.
It's a great
That's
find.
incredible.
It's a
Yeah.
great find.
Yeah.
Anything else
So,
on our ukulele site here?
let's see. So they have okay, yeah, they had some product reviews. I think this is an area where they're a little weak. Um, I can't even find it on the navigation where you can find the product reviews. Down in the footer, they buried it, and they just have a couple of products that
Aha.
they wrote up. Yep, and they do not rank well. They were for a while, but then the big product review from September 2022 knocked them down pretty much to nothing
Looks like they
for
have
the
two
products.
from what I can see.
Yeah, so they're kind of lacking there, and that's a great opportunity for them to expand that particular part of their site. But it's not doing well. So you can do well with one algorithm, and not do well with another, like with these product reviews. Google is doing a good job. Yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
That's
these would not classify as helpful here in the product review
um
side of things.
yeah,
yeah,
no,
no,
it's
kind of
a letdown there. So
Yeah.
maybe,
Okay.
maybe they're watching this and they'll
Let's
take
move
some of
on.
our feedback here. Okay, yeah, let's see. Site number 2. That's
Okay.
going to be what is it? It's Yummy.
Yep, that's the one. You're ahead of me. You're
Okay.
going to be ahead of me the whole time here with my screen
Sorry.
sharing capabilities. Remember, you're dealing with, think of like a first grader sharing screens right now. That's kind of who you're working with here.
This is the entertainment
Okay.
part of our time.
You'll get to watch me scramble while we're live. Okay, we're
All
good now.
right. Everyone go quickly plug this into Ahrefs or SEMrush. Check out their #1 rankings, because this is not what you would expect. At least it wasn't for me. I came to this. I'm like, oh, okay, it's just another recipe site. Cool. Like, what's different about their recipes? How are they doing so well? And then I started looking at their #1 rankings, and that tells a completely different story.
Wow.
Yeah, this one is really crazy. I spent a lot of time going back to the archive Wayback Machine to figure out what is going on with this site, because it seems to have two different personalities. It's got the kind of typical recipe blogger personality, but then it's got like the personality of an SEO who's going after some nice untapped keywords related to food, not necessarily to recipes, such as
What are you saying?
Jack in the Box breakfast.
hours are not related to food?
Well, they're related, but not necessarily to recipes. it's a stretch.
Get the recipe for their breakfast hours. I like that call
Oh,
to
I didn't even
action
see
there.
that. Nice. I didn't even see that. Yeah. So this one was a fun one to dig into and try to figure out why are they doing well with the HCU. And I do wonder how much traffic that they're actually getting because some of these are just simple answers. Like I plugged in one. I did one of the queries in Google, and it was basically a featured happy hour. I didn't know Arby's had a happy hour, but they have the featured snippet for it, and they give you the information right there, and all the information you need right there in the featured snippet. It's from two p.m. to 5 p.m. I don't know what else you need to know, other than maybe you want the particular menu items you want to know, like how much are they, what are those items. Then they may get some clicks there coming onto that page. And so they've got
Whoa.
a ton of these. Yeah, which one is that one?
I'm
Oh,
on
the
Jack in the Box's breakfast
yeah.
hours. And not that the page is incredibly helpful, but I am on a table that I
Mm-hmm.
mean, apparently, uh, to some degree by state, they've broken down the hours, which do vary, it looks like.
Yeah. I wonder if someone can fact check that while we're on here and let us know if those are real. Because I do wonder, are they using AI to generate this content?
Hmm.
And if they are, like how accurate is it? And or are they just paying a VA to go and do all this research, at least for that core information to fill out the table, right? Are they actually going to it was by state, yeah? And so different states
Yep.
had different hours, and so I wonder if that's true. Like all the locations in California have specific hours and
Ooh.
differs than all the other locations in Wyoming or something.
So
I don't
here's a
know.
good thing that somebody share this screen. Backyardscape commented that they've ramped up their production right around the same time as the HCU. So
Hmm.
I went over to Ahrefs and pulled up organic
Yeah.
pages over time. And look at this. So earlier this
Oh,
year,
yeah.
they were at 600, 700,
Yep.
and they ramped
Yep.
up to over 800 pages in September, right when the HCU hit.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So if you zoom out on this site, maybe go to the all or 5 year. Yeah. I
Whoa, look
mean
at this. So they
that.
they were up to this level back in springtime of
Yep.
2022, and then they dipped
Yep.
significantly. And then, I mean, that screams AI right there. When you go from
Yeah.
224 pages to
Yep.
801 the next day, I mean, I suppose it could be, but right, like, doesn't that kind of scream AI?
It does.
Maybe
Or
programmatic?
is it? Yeah. Or they've got a massive team of VAs who are able to collect all this data and then still work with AI. But I don't know. It's it's a lot of pages and a lot of information to collect. And maybe they figured out. I know that there are some people who have found like PDFs or figured out how to scrape corporate websites to get data and then have AI package it all up into a nice blog post. So leveraging that information. I've heard like a lot of like .gov sites will have information in PDFs that don't rank very well,
Yeah.
and it's hard to understand and read, right? And so you can feed those to ChatGPT and have it output a nice little table there. It makes things easy to read, and then some written out information makes it all easier to digest. So that's where maybe Google could be struggling with a lot of these .gov sites who just throw information in PDF. Is that yeah, it's a high authoritative site to rank, but it's not a great
within the
government. Nothing against them. It's just not very consumer friendly, you could say, with a lot of the documents that I've encountered that have been published by a government entity. And
So
so I
this
know
is an
that's a lot
interesting
what people are
question
looking at.
for you, Tony, from an HCU standpoint, right? Like,
Hmm.
where do you think this site will go in the future? And do you think that in the future it'll get caught up in a future HCU? Or do you think this site is actually doing something that maybe people want and need and will find value in?
Yeah. So I think they are providing some value, assuming that information is accurate, then there is some helpful information. So, for example, not only I'm on the Whataburger breakfast hours page, and I'm looking at the hours for all the states that they're in. They're all the same, 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. And you don't get to that page until like two or three scrolls in. And I think you generally will find that. So if you click on any like Hooters Happy Hours or Yard House right there, if you click on one of those, you'll probably find the same thing. The core information that you're looking for, you've got to scroll a little bit. You got to get past some ads to get to. And that's something that, you and I have been talking about is let's put the key information people are looking for at the top of the page. But they're not, and they're getting away with it. Now, in some cases, it's because they're kind of the only one covering it. But in other cases, they're not. They're winning. And even though they're kind of burying that information, but then they'll give you some background information. If you keep scrolling, you'll see stuff like what do they serve on the happy hour menu? So that's kind of helpful, right? To go along with that. So not only, okay, yeah, the hours, okay, might be good to know, what exactly they're serving and how much those things are cost. And they've got videos, they've got pictures from Instagram people have uploaded. So it's kind of an engaging page. To be honest, I would be curious to see what those user engagement metrics look like a time on page and bounce rate.
I mean, I have to admit that, well, you have children. Like sometimes you get a couple hours and life works out to where you're like, oh, we can get a couple hours. Maybe my wife and I, we can go on a quick little date, right? You go to, you don't have much time. You pull up, Google or Google Maps or Yelp, and you're like, what's a happy hour in the neighborhood? I'll tell you, I've never found much value in searching because the information is hidden. It takes you straight to the Yard House's website. Usually a local restaurant is a bit of a disaster trying to navigate around their website if they actually have accurate information. So I could see where this is filling a need. The other side of me says, if I'm being honest, this site gets crushed in the next year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. But, they're taking an opportunity. And if they don't get crushed by, like, say, a core update or HCU update, then it's going to be, Google SGE with the continued rollout of that. It's going to be able to just provide them that core information that they're looking for right there in the SERP, and that they already are, and even the featured snippet, but even more so with SGE there. So they're just capitalizing on some of these sites like yardhouse.com and Whataburger and Arby's. They might not just do a great job of providing that information for people and packaging it up in a helpful page, and so they just found the opportunity and they took it. Now, they have that aspect
traffic. But you know what? They're updating the recipes.
They're putting in original content. It's like if you want to check out one of their recipes, if you go to the homepage, it'll take you to like one of their latest ones, which I thought was their canned sweet potato casserole page. Is that what?
I'm heading over there, I believe,
Okay.
with all of the stuff I have open right now.
Yes.
You're going to get a little bit of a slower screen share. I was laughing as I prepared for this with Tony, just so everybody knows. Like we have 9 websites open because we don't really know how long this is going to go. Many of them have ads that are constantly pinging. I've got a spreadsheet over here with all of Tony and I's notes. I didn't see how long our notes are for this YouTube Live, Tony. I mean, it's probably 20 pages of notes. We did prepare for this, folks. I got the live streaming software. I got the Riverside software. I'm running Ahrefs, so hey, we'll get there. We'll get there.
And I've got nothing going. I just got the site pulled in front of me.
You're doing most of the talking, though. So, I'm just kind of trying to navigate all this stuff. This is like
Yeah.
super host mode here. Okay, I'm on the homepage. What
There you go.
recipe did you want?
Yeah, the canned sweet potato casserole. I believe this was the one where I found that they've had this particular one for a while. If not this one, there was another one. But either way, what I think has happened is this was a personal recipe blog, more of a personal blog, and then turned more recipe blog. And then they either sold it or the domain expired, and then it got picked up by someone who knows how to do SEO really well. And so they went through, and I do wonder if, we see that big drop in the number of index pages. I haven't looked into this, but my theory is that I wonder if they no-indexed a lot of recipe pages that weren't very good, or there was some other sections of the site that weren't totally related to what we've looked at today, and maybe they no index those, and then they just really ramped up, all of these like Dutch Bros prices and Whataburger stuff. But they're still continuing on with the recipes. It's like this canned sweet potato casserole. Again, when I first went to this site, I just clicked. This was the first page I looked at, and I was like, okay, wow, like this is great photos. Are they original? Like based on my Google search, they look like original
I agree.
photos. They look great.
Video showing you how to make
The recipe,
um,
they kind of has that typical format,
around
a little personal anecdote, and then eventually they'll get you to the recipe, and you can follow along, and they got a nice recipe card there. So it's kind of a typical looking recipe, but
I mean,
they've done
look
a
at that.
pretty good
There's
job with it.
129 votes. I mean, that is some user engagement. That would be for this recipe on this site specifically, right?
Yep. Now a lot of these pages, and this might be the one where they've been around since 2014.
Uh-huh.
So what they've done is they've gone through and they've revised them
Yeah.
and updated them. So this one looks like one of the images was uploaded in 2018. I didn't see the original published date. I'm sure someone can figure it out. But yeah, so they've just come in and they've completely revamped these pages here. New content, new text, new pictures, video, and it looks pretty good. But
I mean,
I see this a lot with other recipe sites though that have been hit. So, but they're not ranking well. If you go back to Ahrefs later on, you'll type in recipe as like as a filter there to just see what they're ranking.
ranking for a lot of them.
yeah. I mean, I've interviewed a number of people on the Niche Pursuits podcast that are either recipe bloggers themselves or they are, we had Casey Marquis on over a year ago who audits, food websites specifically. And, from what I can tell, they're doing a lot of things right on the recipes. I think you're right. I think this was clearly a recipe site that then started doing well for other terms, and somebody who knew SEO. I've got their keywords up, but if you'll notice, they got a lot of number one rankings, but those are for images, right? And that's where Ahrefs can be a little bit cryptic. You might think, oh my goodness, but most of the time, those image rankings aren't what's driving the bulk of the traffic. But they do have a couple of mid-page one rankings on this sweet potato casserole recipe, So here you go, sweet potato casserole with canned yams and marshmallows. They rank number 3 for it looks like, updated, about 2 weeks ago.
Yep. That's a pretty good one. It's not too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this one, they said that they added that personal information about how they got all their ingredients from Dollar General, and everything was like less than 50 cents per serving. So, just to give that little information, just to goes to show and demonstrate, that firsthand experience when they phrase things
less than
like
50
that.
cents per serving. So we got up on the screen right there. You're right. That's crazy awesome, especially since the price of sugar has risen so much in the past year. I don't know if that's
Doesn't
true
sound
or
like
not.
AI.
It doesn't sound like AI. It sounds like somebody writing. I don't really know what the price of sugar is, but it sounds like it could have risen in the last year or so.
Yeah.
We got to start picking
Everything-
niches
like
you and I have a little
everything
more
else.
experience in, Tony.
I know.
Between musical chords that we can't even pronounce right, and then sweet potato casseroles and the price of sugar.
Yeah. I have no idea. I don't bake or cook.
So we're getting comments. This is definitely a contrast to the ukulele site.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people discovering some interesting things as it relates to the content, bizarre subdomains, as it relates to Reddit, mass updating of recipe posts during 1 week in September. It's fun having these live because you get all these real comments in real time, but people are having a good time with this one in the comments.
Yeah. And I don't mean to call out a site at all as far negatively. This was one that I just thought would be really interesting for people to see. And really I'm asking myself, what can we learn from this particular site? Is there anything we can model here? At least right now they're able to leverage their authority and kind of branch out into some areas that into new topics, and they're ranking really well for all these menus and happy hours and prices for different restaurants. Could there be something similar that you could do, maybe not to that extreme, But just thinking a little bit outside the box, like you could literally tell ChatGPT about this site, like, hey, here's this recipe site I found. Here's some of the new content they're expanding into. Okay, here's what my site is about. Like, how can I do something similar? Give me some ideas to branch out. But you don't want to branch out too far outside of your core topic and what you know best. But just kind of it was a mind expander for me, and it was just inspiring that they were able to capitalize on this and the play that they took.
I agree. I mean, I think in general, people need to see that, like, how do I say this? And there's been a lot of conversation about it, but the helpful content update is most definitely not out of the gate hitting a home run with every single query and every single website, especially. And this is what happens a lot when I consult with clients is they'll say, well, my site has dropped. It must be because of this. And oftentimes we see a connection. We have a site, for example, that we're going to look at. Hopefully, we might not have time for it, but that we might look at later that's on the agenda that it looks like at first glance, if you just look at it from afar, that it got hit by the HCU. But when you drill in, it actually was not hit by the helpful content update. It was hit by a core update. And we're kind of having to use different applications or interpretations when sites get hit with different things. And so, where this site is now, where it could be later, where it accelerated, and then where it didn't accelerate, it's all tied together. So, anyways, I think it's a good site to compare and contrast with the ukulele site, which was clearly a passion play done well.
Yeah, for sure. It goes to show how with the ukulele site, it wasn't a lot of original content on there, but it was all presented in a way that was just really helpful and interactive for people to use versus this recipe site. It's got a lot of content on there that they put together on every single page, and it's doing well there. So it's just another way that goes to show Google is getting better at understanding what kind of content are people looking for is going to best serve them. Does it need to be a lot of text? Does it need text and images with some video, or does it just need to be some interactive tool? You don't have to necessarily have all the right words on the page. That's still a factor to a degree, right? So if you want to rank for some of the ukulele lyrics and chords page, you got to have the song and the name of the song on the page somewhere to help with that. But otherwise, not a whole lot of original content on there.
But helpful content, I've heard other people talk about helpful content does not necessarily mean long form. It does not necessarily mean unique. It does not necessarily mean well optimized. It does not necessarily mean well structured. It's supposedly somewhat in the eye of the user. And I guess
Yes.
And this is what in the next site, I think the next site's on me to talk about, but I want to point out, like, user metrics are an important factor in this, that we're seeing that play itself out over and over again. This is where things like your ad density and how many pop-ups you have and your site speed and, these other factors that we've been taught are like, well, they're there, but they're not the primary drivers. The HCU might be changing that a little bit in terms of the equation and the dials that input into the equation.
Yep, for sure. And that's something I'm currently obsessed with right now is how can I increase engagement? I'm looking at the time on site, time on page metric, the bounce rate, pages per visit. Right now, that's where I'm currently focusing on and really looking at those numbers and trying different ideas to see how I can move the needle on those numbers. Ultimately, the longer I can get them on the site, the more I can get them to engage with it in some way. Because now we know, like, Google's tracking clicks and taps and scrolls, and if you're typing, right? And so if you can get people to tap more, click more, scroll more, and even type more on your page, such as like having a comment section, right? Then that just overall more engagement signals that you're sending to Google, and that's going to help you out there with your rankings.
Well, should we move on to the third side of the day here?
Yeah.
Now I have to present, share, comment, chat. I have to do all of it all at once. So
I could take a little
giddy
break
up.
here. Do nothing.
You can take a break. You probably walk away for a second if you wanted. Let's see here. So this is a site that we did discuss on one of our Twitter spaces. So shout out if you were at the Twitter space. It won't be the exact same thing.
Was it the one that somehow there was a bug with Twitter and it didn't record? It saved the
recording? Might have been. Yeah, it might have been one of the spaces we did. It didn't record, even though I set it up to record. It even told me, you set it up to record. We just don't have the recording. That was a bummer because the other recordings have done very well. So this is dollarsprout.com. And I have it up in front. It's a site in the financial niche. For those of you who are wondering, it is a DR 69, so it is a higher DR site. 189,000 keywords, about 179,000 organic traffic. I think out of the gate, one of the things I'll share about this site is that there's a clear emphasis on design, right? We did not see that with the ukulele site, which did fine. So not to say that you have to have good design to win at the HCU, but that is definitely, you feel like you're with a brand for probably the first time today that we've seen. They basically offer front and center up here at above the fold, right? Like this is a business and we are here to provide you with Dollar Sprout rewards. You can get free cash back from 15,000 stores, start earning. So, it hasn't come up yet today, Tony, but we've definitely talked and there's been a lot of feedback about this, that people are noticing that businesses are winning more and more. And so this idea that how do you make your website look more and more like a business? I would say Dollar Sprout looks like a business where they have a clear call to action. Let's see. In terms of other things besides their website they have going, and then we'll get into some of the pages here. They have a podcast. They do have social media channels. Their social media channels aren't very active. So you can see Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest. Their Facebook has 17,000 followers. Their YouTube, 16,000 followers. Their Pinterest, 24,000 followers. They're not very active. Here's something about it, though. Would love to hear your opinion on this. They get branded search traffic. So if you go to Ahrefs and you look, one of their highest ranking keywords, well, not highest ranking, but one of their keywords they rank for, number one for, that they get search traffic for is Dollar Sprout, all one word. So very clearly getting search traffic. So I don't know, before I dive into some of these pages here, I mean, some of the things that stand out to me that we've seen win consistently with the HCU is good branding, a business call to action or a business product that they're selling front and center, social channels, and branded search.
Yeah, branded search, that was something that I meant to say about the UQ site. If you, I was looking at the report on the keywords that they're ranking, and they had a high branded search for ukulele, or no, I'm sorry, UQ chords, and or UQ tuner. So that meant that people have been to the site and they're like, I really liked how they presented the chords or the scales, so the tuner, and I want to go back to it. So not only was they just searching for the UQ but then a particular page on the site, which I thought was a good sign of a brand.
Yep.
In many ways, right? So this Dollar Sprout, I'm curious, is there anything defining about them that people are going to Google and typing in Dollar Sprout and then what? Is there something else that they're looking for?
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know. I agree with you. Like at first glance, it looks just like another financial site. Like why are you typing Dollar Sprout in? I mean, it could just be that people like the content. They enjoy reading financial content. They enjoy reading side hustle content. I've got a page up here on screen. I'll talk about it here in a second on the 5 best paid survey sites. Maybe they just go to the website because they want to see on the homepage what the latest articles are that they enjoy reading.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, same thing. Like people type in Business Insider in Google. They don't want to put the .com in there because they just want to read the latest on Business Insider, because that's drawing in what's new information. So that would be my encouragement to this site is become a destination beyond just the website in general. Whether that's people want to get a new updated financial information as it relates to side hustle, or there's some sort of tool people can engage with. I mean, it's something I'm considering for my own sites. Is how can I come up with something unique, whether it's information, news that you can only get from me, or some unique tool or resource that people are just going to go to Google, type the brand name plus then what it is that they're looking for in particular.
This page in particular here that I have up, it's the 17 best places to take paid online surveys up to $50 an hour. I'll just kind of start shouting out things I'm noticing. First off, it was written by someone and then reviewed by somebody different, right? Tony, you and I have talked in DM quite a bit about reviewed by, how to implement that, schema for it. Certainly that's something that if you're in a YMYL niche is becoming more prevalent, something to consider and think about. I think historically, these I didn't check today what they were at, but they were at number 4 ranking for highest paying online surveys. They did spike to number 1 right after the HCU. They do have references to their Trustpilot down here at the bottom. And I think the thing that stands out is they're very detailed in their reviews, right? We talked here and in past episodes where we've done these kind of HCU reviews about how review sites in particular are having a really hard time, and so this is a review article, right? Like they're basically reviewing different survey tools. And, I was commenting on a couple of things. Let's see if I can find it here. I have it in my notes. Here it is. I earned $7.41 and nearly reached the silver badge tier within the first 2 hours of using the platform. That's pretty evident that this person actually tried this and not only tried it, but understood their user enough to know the numbers that were important to them. How much they earned, status or tiers, number of hours using the platform. Like, it's not just like, well, I don't know a thing about ukuleles, but I'm going to go ahead and use this ukulele and report back on stuff. Like, it really feels like they understand their target market, At another time in this article, in 3 days of passively using the platform, I accrued 256 points, which is roughly equivalent to $2.56. Over a 30-day period with a similar effort, I expect to earn around $25. It's in general, this is a page that is updated frequently. It's reviewed by somebody. It has very, very strong user-based language that I would say is hard for AI to mimic, and certainly speaks to the point that it looks like they actually are testing this stuff. I'm not blown away with the experience on the page, but I think that they're doing some things pretty well here.
For sure. And I think they're hitting on some things that
important to people. And that's where Google's getting better at figuring that out, finding those signals. So for some sites, does it really matter to
the person who lands on it that someone reviewed it? Not only is it written by somebody and you know who it was written by, you see their name and their picture, and does it really matter that they reviewed it? I mean, I've seen a lot of niche sites that are in some really kind of basic niches. I don't know, like say they're like in the cat niche and they're writing something about some toys, some ideas, toys you can get for your cat. Like, is that important for a veterinarian to actually review that? Is it important to the consumer or the reader of that page? Probably not. I mean, sure, there could be like a safety aspect. I could probably find an angle, but to the average person, is that important? And so there are some cases where I'm just thinking, and when I see people are going above and beyond and over the top with some of this stuff when it comes to authorship and reviewership. But in cases like a YMYL, this is your money one. For a lot of people, that will be important to know
who wrote this, what kind of credibility they have, who is it reviewed by.
And so just being able to, maybe Google's getting better at figuring that out when it's necessary, because I've seen sites increase in rankings from the HCU that they don't even have an author on the page because it probably doesn't matter to the average person.
Well, speaking of which, I brought up the author page or the author bio for Ben Huber. And again, this is the author page for him. And again, I do think a lot of people are getting very obsessed with author pages right now. I think that probably somewhere in the middle of the obsession and the ignoring it completely is where we want to land. I think once you start getting those kind of things, probably off-page signals for your author are more important than your author page itself, but I digress. This author page is well done, I think, from a general standpoint. They kind of call out very tangible entity-based experiences. And when I say that, I mean after graduating from Virginia Tech. Okay, that's an actual university that Google can understand. Yep. In the year of 2011. Year is actually an entity in many definitions. Western Governors University. Worked in a regional hospital network. Would love to hear that, but at least we have a position, clinical administrator. Launching Dollar Sprout. And then we go through places he's been featured with links, NBC, blah, blah, blah. So these are kind of entity-based types references. And then to learn more, connect with Ben on LinkedIn, right? So then we have a social profile that's going to kind of validate Ben's hopeful existence and activity and expertise in this field, right? So again, there's a lot of different ways you can go with author bios, but I would say that from a high level, this is a good one, along with continuing to build out Ben Huber as an expert with other places on the internet, not just Dollar Sprout.
That's right. Yeah, this is a pretty good one. If I had to give any feedback on it, I would say implement some schema on there. I'm not seeing any schema there. And then so where it says Virginia Tech, I would link to the Virginia Tech website just to
Amen.
solidify
Yep.
that with Google. So there's no guessing, and there's like 100% certainty with Google of what he's referring to. And even further, maybe link to the department that he graduated within. Same thing with the Western Governors University and any other entity that you're mentioning. Link that you can use for that entity, use it. Whether it's a Wikipedia or
And that's
That'd be my feedback.
and I was going to say, and put it into the schema as well. So don't just link to it, but also
right.
add it to the schema. You can mark all this up. And that brings us to a very good point of pause here. I'll wrap up this website, and then before we go to the next one, a little bit of marketing to do here. So again, Dollar Sprout in general, I would say well branded, good UX, good organization on the site, clear business play here. Look at the rewards, big green button up here, right? Like there's this rewards component that I didn't look into, but there's a clear business play. We didn't talk about it, but I don't know if you noticed, Tony, we're 10, 15 minutes into the site, no ads, and content that is updated frequently and really seems to be serving the intent of the user. So, but on that schema note, I thought this would be a good time to remind people that, hey, a couple of things are going on. Number one, if you want to sign up for the Weekend Growth newsletter, I'm doing, as per your recommendation, Tony, I got to give you the credit here publicly, per your recommendation, I'm going to do a 4-part series on schema. And that is going to be coming up in terms of emails. And so if you want to see and hear that, go ahead and get signed up. And then, Tony, you also have a newsletter here. I got to find that. Where'd it go? While I look for the newsletter, you also have something else that you're offering today only. So I want to give you a chance to talk about that really quickly while I find a link to your newsletter.
Yeah, cool. So I recently launched a paid newsletter called Building a Niche Site Brand. And basically, like what we're kind of covering today, if you're liking this kind of content, then check out my newsletter where each week I'm going to be sending you an email with a deep dive with one strategy you can implement on your site to help turn it into a brand. And I'm finding a lot of these sites here that are doing really well with branding, and whether these are small sites or big sites, I've found some really great ideas and found some things that the average niche site just isn't doing. They're not even thinking about some of these things. So I'm sending out one of those every single week, but I'm doing a special price promo, particularly for people who are watching this. So it's normally $29 a month. I'm going to offer it 17% off for $24 a month. But the first
25 people who take advantage of that.
So we'll have a link for people who want to do that. Offer 30-day
refund.
If you don't like
The first 4, ask your money back. Stand behind that.
Yeah.
I've seen into that. It's good looking. If you like this kind of stuff, you'll kind of get daily drip, or not daily, it's weekly drips, right? Weekly drips.
Yep. Full breakdown, just
perfect.
Get the idea and how to do it. So.
Okay, Tony, where do you want to go next here? We got a couple more we can try to squeeze in. We are coming up on the hour, so maybe one more here we'll try to go for.
Okay, so we talked about doing this gold standard niche site.
Yep. I know which one you're talking about. I'll start getting
the
ready.
last one. Yep. All right. So Bonsai Empire. This is one that I've come across, and gosh, they're ranking for a lot of great stuff, doing really well, and they're very branded, as you can tell with the unique logo, color scheme. They're really simple, but they've got a lot of informational content that's ranking really well in Google, and they've got a community. They've got online courses. They're doing a lot of good stuff here, and man, that's why I call them a gold standard. I think they're hitting everything between search, but also taking it deeper with courses and the forum. And there aren't a lot of ads or any on the site, basically, because they're probably just promoting their courses along the way, and they're professionally done. You look at the course preview page, and you'll see the videos are just really well done. I haven't watched them myself, but on the very professional scale, it looks like. And have multiple courses, and yeah, I bet this is a nice moneymaker. And they've got a lot of social followings, 500,000 almost YouTube subscribers. So
Uh-oh.
they're doing really well. Uh-oh.
Did I break
What
their?
page is that?
Did I break their core page? Perhaps don't hit that button. Everything else is beautiful though.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Here we go.
so
So here you have your
yep,
beginner course, 17 lectures,
yep,
2.5 hours,
yep.
$40. Intermediate course, 24 lectures, 3.5 hours, $59. Intermediate developing deciduous bonsai. Now, okay, I don't know bonsais, but I know enough about plants to at least be able to finally pronounce something properly, which is nice. Bonsai fundamentals course. I mean, they got a lot of courses here.
Yeah, they do. My
My
goodness.
gosh.
I wonder if they are working backwards from their approach with content. So the typical approach for what may be soon, more average approach for the niche site owner is that, okay, they've got this niche site. It hasn't been doing well on Google lately. You need to find other ways to earn revenue. I want to, reduce ads, that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm open to the idea of creating a course. And so now they're piecing that together, where I wonder if this site started more off from like the courses, and how do we then start promoting and publishing public content out there for people to bring them in. And so I've seen this in like the local business industry, right? So it's really common for them to have a blog and start attracting people in from search to point them towards their core product or service. And so that could just be something to think about as you're trying to figure out, how I'm gonna launch a course. But once you even launch it, then how are you going to tailor your content and your new content strategy so that it really connects well with the course and points people towards the course, and where you give kind of the basics on your publicly available articles, but when you are ready for them to deep dive, especially if it's anything video related, is a great opportunity to launch a course. So that's something else to think about, is just your strategy of kind of having the course material jive well with the new articles and content that you're putting out there. And for some people, it may be as simple as you just take all of your text-based content, put it into a video form, and that's what you sell as your course, is the video.
I mean, I'm on the forum now, Tony, and gee whiz, like this isn't just a forum for forum's sake. I'm looking at number of replies in the general discussion, 7,000 replies, 552 topics. I mean, this is a pretty well trafficked forum.
Yeah, it is. Wow. Yeah. And just another opportunity there to test. I highly recommend everyone test the forum. I'll be testing that out next year. Got a million ideas. I can only get to one.
Yeah, that's a big one, and that just continues to solidify
Repeat traffic.
Community. We talk about Google likes user-generated content right now, so
it seems like a great opportunity. But I think the tricky part is launching a forum and then getting people to show up, right? So imagine if we came to this forum page and there was just a handful of topics and not a lot of replies. And the last time someone replied was 2 weeks ago. People are going to be less inclined to register and participate. So I get that part's tricky, and I think there's some strategy you can probably implement on a big forum launch to build some excitement about it. And I think it's going to start with collecting emails. So I think there'll be a process. I don't know if I'd recommend just launching a forum and just hopefully everyone will sign up. I think it's going to require some strategy there. But if you want some long-term traffic and people to stick around, forums is a great way to go. I know some people who do really well with forums. They've been running them for years and years, and it's just really great, repeat, consistent traffic that you can have over decades.
I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, we could spend a lot of time going through this, but there's a lot of reasons why design-wise this site is a cut above. In terms of how they've structured their content, cut above. In terms of, obviously, you kind of called it out, but like the website feels like a part of a larger brand. It's a part of this large educational whole focus, right, around the bonsai, the growth of the bonsai tree. And they've just gone all in on everything from courses to forums to the way that they educate, video, tons of video work. But I think you're right. Like this, maybe what I would want to echo from what you said, and I think you said it well, is that in many ways, you feel like you get the sense that they started not with the website and then built everything after that. They kind of started with perhaps different approach to the way they created content, with either the website being a part of it or almost being secondary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. You know, if you go to the top navigation under tree species and under care guides, you'll see the first one, ficus bonsai. I mean, they've just figured out how to
Craft their content
to different learning modalities that people.
So, like on the top of that page, there's a download button. I'm gonna guess I haven't filled
this out, but I'm gonna get it's a PDF version. So basically, if you click on that, it's a great way to collect a name and an email. But now people can get a PDF. Okay, so they can go through this as a PDF. Then below that is an option to watch a video. So that's for like the more visual learners who just want someone they want to see and have someone talk to them. And then if you scroll down below that, those are for the readers, right? Who like want, and people who want to get into the details of it. And they did a great job compartmentalizing all the information onto one page, right? Where you have to expand the information if that's what you want, right? So if you want to learn more about watering, then you click on watering and it will expand that and give you that information. It just makes it a lot easier to scroll through the site.
Do you think this is,
you know what I mean?
Here, I mean, it's almost like they have, okay, same thing, ficus guide. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, look at this. If you want to download something for your iPad or whatever it is, you know, you can download it. If you want to watch a video, you can learn by watching a video. And if you want to read, you can read it, and it's well organized, you know?
Yeah, it's inspiring. It's above and beyond what I've ever done.
Wow.
Yeah.
and then they got a
Great job with continuing exploring at the bottom of that, where you can just kind of go in a little deeper. They've got some internal links there, but just figuring out that user navigation and where, if they get to the bottom of the page, they're just thinking about the user, like, all right, you didn't really engage them up here, or maybe you did, but you're still wanting some more. Here's some great additional resources for you. And just the way they present it, it's just like one at a time down there at the very bottom of like, you can learn about fertilizing, you can learn about repotting, and they seem to really have gotten into the head of their ideal audience.
Yes.
And they understand what they want.
So as we kind of wrap things up, like general themes, you know, I feel like some themes that came out today that we saw are understanding your user. I think that was probably the most prevalent thing to me. You know, I'd say site design on the last two, but certainly the first two didn't necessarily have the ukulele site doesn't really have a stellar design, but the usability was high. It was very high. You could say the second site, the Yummy site, certainly served the purpose of what the user wanted, probably the poorest design-wise, and then obviously the last two sites had stellar design. But I think in general, the big thing I'm walking away with out of all the things we talked about is understanding the true needs of your user, thus satisfying them, thus keeping them on the page, thus having them scan from page to page to page and engage in your website at a higher level, keeping them on your site, even adding a forum, even adding additional resources to continue to keep them engaged on your site.
Yep, for sure. You know, just even simple things like with the bonsai site, it's a very clean site. They've got a custom font. They've got a lot of white space. They've got green as their primary color. If you think about the person who would have a bonsai tree, you have to be kind of a meticulous person, you know? And so you can just, that kind of reflects the personality of their ideal person that they're reaching, and just how they're presenting the site. Same thing with like the Dollar Sprout site, right? Like really white, clean, green as primary color for money as it relates, and it just comes across as professional and trustworthy. So does site design and color there's a lot of psychology there. Exploring more on your own time of just understanding that, and maybe there's some changes you can make to your site design and color scheme and layout that may have a big impact on if people are going to stick around or not, and if they're going to trust you or not.
Well, Tony, this was really fun. I just want to remind everyone to take advantage of, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, Tony's got a great series coming out. I'll be talking about schema as it relates to this in the coming weeks, so definitely some more content to come out of these topics. You can get signed up. how this works. I think I'm not a YouTube live professional, so this should go into a normal YouTube feed after this, and I can add comments and or add
Okay.
not comments, but show notes, as they say, right?
Yeah.
But I'll get that in the show notes. Hey, thanks everyone for joining. This was fun. It's fun to have like the live interaction. The comments were super intriguing and exciting. People were adding a lot of value as well. So this was pretty good, successful kind of first or second YouTube live for me.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
You got it. A lot of fun. Until next time, we'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks so much. See you later. Good luck.